Now, I'm sure that many of you have heard a number of differing opinions on what constitutes a proper diet. I'm sure some of these were structured well, generally coherent, and came to a responsible conclusion. I'm sure others were full of rhetoric and yelled at high volume. Today, I hope to, if not provide a full image of what makes a healthy diet, at least provide my cardinal rule of eating well, or at least the cardinal rule I have come to from both experience and my knowledge of human biology. And that rule is not eating sugar, completely avoiding it. Now, when I tell people this, they seem actually kind of confused. They tend to tell me about this pyramid that tells them to eat a large amount of starches at the bottom, which starches basically are breads, pretty much any kind of grain, things like potatoes and other root vegetables, followed by a slightly smaller amount of leafy greens, then an even smaller amount of protein, followed by an even smaller amount of fat, and then at the very tip, a tiny bit of what is referred to as sugar or junk food. Now, I find this kind of surprising because this theory was established approximately 30 years ago and almost immediately disproven. It is now considered to be completely inaccurate by the majority of the scientific community. Yet people still stick to it. Now, my own belief that I should avoid sugar is essentially based in pretty much scientific reasoning. Sugar is an oxidant. Now, you may have heard this word prior to this particular speech. An oxidant is basically any compound, so any substance, which prevents your cells from disposing of RAS, which is short for reactive oxygen species. Don't ask me how species got in there, I think they just wanted to sound cool. RAS is a toxin that your cells produce when they break down any form of fuel to make cellular energy that is extremely harmful. It is actually often considered one of the most dangerous and poisonous things that can be in your body on a regular basis. And the thing is, it's always being produced, but it's also always being disposed of. Things that are antioxidants help dispose. Things that are oxidants, like sugar, cause it to accumulate, causing genetic damage, which causes accelerated aging, mental decline, and things like cancer, which it's actually almost impossible to develop cancer without high ROS levels, which most of us have. Now, what most people run into as a problem when they try to quit sugar is they don't realize that sugar and starch are chemically exactly the same thing. So all of that stuff at the bottom that you're supposed to eat a lot of is the same thing as the stuff at the top. So even if you completely cut out the things you'd obviously think of as sugar, like cane sugar, maple syrup, etc., you're still going to eat things like a loaf of bread, which still cause that blood sugar spike exactly the same way. The natural side effect of a blood sugar spike is that you feel great, and then you feel awful, which makes you want to go eat, which makes you, because you're eating starches and sugars, which remember, exact same thing, then make you feel great again, and then awful again, and create a cycle which causes you to gain weight, feel generally sick over time, and be unhealthy. Now, the second problem people always run into is they try to only partially quit. That doesn't really work because sugar, and remember when I say sugar I mean sugars or starches, it's same compound, they both create glucose in the bloodstream, is in essence a drug. It uses the same process as something like heroin or cocaine to make you addicted to it. You eat a pure starch or sugar, That makes your blood sugar go up, you feel great. Then it goes down, you feel awful, and your brain tells you to go eat more so you can feel great again. And that makes you addicted to it. So if you try to only partially quit, you'll still go up, and you'll want even more because you've got to be perpetually shoving more and more in to make you feel normal. And the result is that you feel horrible and eventually return to eating the same amount of sugar. The way to avoid this is by completely dropping anything which creates glucose. What happens then is your body converts over to something called ketones, which a ketone is the equivalent of glucose, but produced by your cells processing fat chains. When fat chains are broken down into ketones, those are then used to fuel your cells on a much slower burning basis. You don't get blood sugar spikes. That prevents all sorts of ailments. Now, I don't expect you to actually go out and change. I would hope you would, but very few people do. But I do want you to at least realize, maybe next time someone tells you about following the food pyramid, that that theory is no longer accurate and hasn't been for a long time.